I still do not know how they got the big buildings up on the third floor.
You'll be okay.
There's some huge elevators.
I had to talk to the company.
All that's cool.
You stay what you're doing, because you're doing it out.
Right. All this.
Get off.
Ron, are you back yet?
I'm
You
getting
always,
it.
they got the most recent school history. But you always
takes
got
a
your
while.
critics. Why did they call it Carmine?
Week from Thursday, the 23rd.
If you place in the middle of the time, you should be so ready, depending on what
Yeah, we
place.
come back, well, we're done. Reservations till the 15th, and then we go up to Pennsylvania for
They're doing a good job.
3-4 days to see
Right.
Lynn's relatives. The dysfunctional family.
Every
Are they
family's
Amish?
got one.
Are they Amish?
No,
And
Do you know what Amish women do now for them? Two women
so is your
Yes.
son coming down?
what?
Is your son coming down?
Yeah. Okay. All right, 6 o'clock, and I'd like to call the February meeting of the Tomahawk Board of Education together. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please, Colleen.
Yep. Haefman, Huseby,
Yes.
Kirsch,
Here.
Kissinger Wolf,
Yes.
Long,
Here.
Scuba,
Here.
Swente, here, Leloup,
Here.
Zimmerman.
Here.
Okay.
Okay, and next agenda item is the adoption of the agenda. Each of you should have a copy of the agenda. So I entertain a motion to adopt the agenda as presented.
I so move.
Okay, I have a motion, a second, to adopt the agenda as presented. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next agenda item is staff recognition. So the board would like to recognize Allison Ewert. Am I pronouncing that right, Allison?
Oh, Ewert. Sorry, I'm really bad at
Okay.
Ewert.
Ewert,
That's
okay. Well, I don't have to pronounce it again, so we're okay.
You're good to go now.
Yeah, I'm good. For efforts to build and strengthen the community through developing servant leadership in students. Allison can be observed on a daily basis working with students in the family and consumer science courses she teaches, as well as serving as the advisor for family, career, and community leaders of America. Through Allison's work, students make direct connections between what they learn in class and how it can impact the lives of others. Allison provides students with opportunities to develop life skills and career preparedness through direct connections with Tomahawk and our surrounding communities by serving as a mentor and guide while promoting student leadership and servanthood. Community building is witnessed through events such as FCCLA, Blood Drive, Birthing Center care packages, Humane Society resource donations, and school safety projects. These events have a direct impact on the quality of lives and create strong partnerships between our school and the community it serves. Allison's impact is exponential when considering the fact that her mentorship of young leaders will create a culture in them to lead and serve others throughout their future professional and social lives. Thank you, Allison, for your dedication and service to our students, school, and community. So if you would come forward, please. I'd like to present you with this, Allison. Thank
Much
you.
appreciated. Thank you.
Thanks again.
Such kind words.
Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
We need a lot of people like that, you know? Good job. Okay, next district administrators update. Wendell?
So, we have long agenda tonight, so I will be brief, but I do want to just start out by thanking everybody who is a part of our SEL curriculum selection committee. I know there was some talk back and forth on really what this was, and I think that Teresa and Wendy have done a really nice job of framing this and showing folks that, this is something that obviously we've been doing. We're just looking at getting new materials and updating what we're doing. And so I was really pleased when I saw the variety of viewpoints and different stakeholder groups that were represented within that committee. I think that's going to lead to some really rich conversation and discussions. And as you go through it, I hope that we land on and we're pretty definitive on the direction we want to go and what we want to choose. So I'm also pretty happy that it is such a transparent process. You're going to hear more about it in both the directors' reports tonight, and there will be also some informational sessions that they hold throughout as well. So just wanted to mention that tonight, and I look forward to seeing that process unfold. In the board referrals, you will see the day at the Capitol, and some information was sent out through WASB. They're in the process of trying to put this together, but it looks like a pretty lucrative situation and kind of an interesting day. So if that's something you're interested in, let me know, let Colleen know, and we can try to put together some transportation and head down as a group and line something up. Wanted to just throw out a reminder that next month will be our mid-year stoplight session, where we will present our progress data thus far, in relation to our strategic plans. We'll have all of our scorecards updated, and that will be coming on next month's agenda and will be attached. And then lastly, I had on here to do an athletic update, but later in the day today we got a board report from Scott Parsons that contains a lot of the things that I was going to discuss. So he won't be here tonight to present on that, but that information is out there. So I just want to congratulate Zach Hansey, our 3 wrestlers, Zach Hansey qualified for state in 2 different areas. Our 3 wrestlers, Presley Gutbrod, Jack Derleth, and Blake Yonker, for qualifying for sectionals. And in hockey, we have a number of folks, Zach Frisky for second team all conference, Logan Seymour and Austin Lamer for honorable mention, and obviously our coach of the year, Chris Van Benster, which was a unanimous selection from the GNC. So a great honor for them. So that's all in that report as well, so if you want to take a look at it. But yeah, that's all I have for my report tonight.
Okay. Any questions for Wendell? Comments? I just had one question. Maybe you'll get to it. I saw in Teresa's report the 20 not individual, different groups that are going to be part of this committee. How are they chosen? How did we pick that group, Teresa?
So we had a listening session first, and then we explained to what SEL was at the time, and we explained to everyone the process for applying, and we let everyone know that it would be availability first and then multiple representation. So kind of like the VEST team was selected, where we looked at individuals who may be represented, that they were parents or grandparents, they lived in the community, they were either business people or clergy, or if they had multiple roles that ranked very high, that we wanted them to serve from multiple lenses. But as it turned out, we didn't have an overwhelmingly number of applicants, so we narrowed it primarily by availability. If they could come to all 5 of our meetings, then we accepted everybody who could come to all 5 of the meetings. We didn't turn anybody away who could be there for all 5.
So we
Okay.
had
So no one was, everybody that wanted to be involved?
everybody that could be there for all 5 dates,
Okay.
we accepted.
Good. Okay. I guess I just have one last comment. I don't know if any of the rest of you got this, but I received in the email, there was an article that was written in the state of Virginia about SEL. And it said, whether it's true or not, I have no idea. But it said that the concern that they have with SEL in the state of Virginia is that they're going to, it's a replacement to try to get in critical race theory into the SEL program. Whether it's true or not, I don't know. But that's what the article's about. That's how they're circumventing what the state has done. I've talked to Wendell about it a little bit, and I feel very comfortable with where we're headed with the SEL program. This is a personal feeling. I don't think that CRT, critical race theory, is something that belongs in the K through 12 program. I think the concepts of it, I don't feel that K through 12 students are mature enough to be able to deal with and address those types of concepts. I'm not real sure some adults, including me, could deal with some of those types of concepts. So I haven't heard anything else that was just sent to me, and I just felt the need to reply publicly in this meeting that that's something that as this committee is put together and stuff, that's make sure that we keep that out of there.
We'll
And
talk
I'm sure we
when
will.
we give our reports, like what our process is to
Okay.
help explain that.
Okay, okay, I appreciate it, thank you. I don't know, did anybody else get anything, article like that?
No. But I attended the listening session, and you got, some of the questions you got, you saw that there was some concern that was out there, and I know Sharon.
And we did research ourselves on this, and I was very pleased with our first gathering. I was very pleased
I was waiting
with
to
the
share
input.
that. You're beating me to the
I'm
punch.
sorry. I had concerns, but I was very pleased how it went. It's going in the right direction. I think it's gonna help our students, and that's what it's all about.
Exactly, exactly. Like I said, I feel more comfortable now too, but I just wanted to say that, so we know where we're coming from.
I think you're gonna clear the air on a lot of things too, from some of those questions they have. It's
Okay.
not something new, it's something that's been around.
Okay. All right, anything else for Wendell?
This is an advisory committee, correct?
Yes.
It's an
yes.
advisory committee that will develop a recommendation that will be given to the superintendent and then presented to the board for excuse me, approval, correct?
Correct.
The only reason I mention that is if, you know, the committee, I'm sure, is made up of wonderful people who are dedicated to the right answers, but committees don't always come up with a total package, not necessarily pieces of a package, but a total understanding that might be present with more expertise involved. So I hope everyone understands, it's an advisory group, not a decision-making group.
And that was presented well that night.
Okay, anything else? All right, next is public comment. Any public comment this evening?
I have one. I'd like to congratulate the Tomahawk Cheer and Dance Club for a wonderful season, and their advisor, Ashley Hernandez. I was approached by a parent. Sometimes you learn what's gonna happen. They're very proud of it, and I want to congratulate them.
You're right. I mean, I see it at the football games when they introduce the kids, the grade school kids, the football players, and the cheerleaders are all there. I'm thinking, my God, they should be recruiters someplace. They get a lot of kids to come out, so it's good. They seem very enthusiastic about it.
They've achieved a lot of success in a very short time. They're
Yeah.
doing extremely well.
Yeah, I agree. Any other public comment? Okay. Next item is the consent agenda, and we have a number of items on the consent agenda. One, approve the minutes from the Operations and Finance Committee. Two, approve the minutes from the regular meeting of January 10th. Approve the minutes of the Operation Finance Committee meeting on 26th of January. Approve the minutes from the Personnel Committee meeting on January 30th. Approve the minutes from the closed session of the Personnel Committee meeting on January 30th. And approve the invoices from January 7th to February 10th. And then the last one is a list of employment and contract adjustments. Okay, and so I'd entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I just want to give a quick update from, there's a couple of, minutes from the Operations and Finance Committee about, I just want to give a quick update to the board about what we're working on.
Is that from the first one or the second one?
It's both,
Both,
technically.
okay.
Wendell, I don't remember when we started this, but earlier this fall, we you contracted with Point of Beginnings, correct? To do a study about traffic flow study around the school, and you know, I think we've talked about this before at the board, but to look at different drop-off patterns and have Point of Beginnings help us explore solutions to some of our traffic congestion issues around the school. So these are just very, very initial meetings. Point of Beginnings presented a couple different options, and those options required us to go meet with the city, to do our due diligence with them to find out what was feasible as far as rerouting traffic and doing some different things like that. So still very, very much in the infancy stages of that. You know, I think there's some promising options that we're gonna be able to bring to the board and explore, but we have gotta make sure that the options that we're looking at are even feasible with the city right now. We're not 100% sure they are, so we should be meeting with them again, I think on Thursday, at 9:30, to kind of pick up where we left off, and there, we're gonna go and get some answers and get back to us, so that's all that's going on there.
Okay,
Thank you, Dave.
then again, I entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda. It's presented.
So move.
Second.
I'll second.
Okay, motion is second to approve the consent agenda as presented. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 10, approval of the academic and technical excellence scholarship recommendations. Wendell, is there anything we need to do there or comment on?
I don't believe any comment, it just needs an approval each and every year, so there was a list with the criteria there, a link that I presented, and then.
Okay. Then entertain a motion to approve the academic and technical excellence scholarship recommendations
Long.
and the alternates.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Long, so move.
Second,
Baloo, second.
motion is second to approve the academic and technical excellence scholarship. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Staff reports. Guy, are you up first?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay.
For the elementary, we finished up our explicit instruction training with Anita Archer in December. And at that meeting, I mentioned that we were going to try, we try to find a strategy that we could all get behind as far as the elementary, and how one thing we could take away and use, make practical for ourselves. One thing we wanted to do was increase engagement. We've gotten into the practice of raising your hand, and we felt like if we had a different strategy, or try some different strategies, we could increase our engagement, because we felt like often we're getting the same students raising their hands, and that some students, like the student I was in school, would rely on 3 other people answering, and I'd be able to sit back and say nothing and not really be fully engaged. So we wanted to increase our engagement. So we ended up, our staff meeting in January got canceled because of weather. So we ended up meeting last night and talking about how that strategy is going. The staff had different ideas, from pulling popsicle sticks to not taking the first hands that are up. The students have gotten the idea now that everybody is going to be part of the engagement. So we got some feedback, and it seems like we're going to continue that work. The engagement levels that we heard were high, or higher without the hand raising. We also talked last night about a swivel camera, and talked about how we could use that to maybe record some instructions, so the teams, our grade level teams, could use that to take a look at themselves teaching. Sometimes there's some benefit to watching yourself, and so we talked about that last night. Some of our teachers, through the explicit instruction, went through some training with that swivel camera, and we feel like that might be a useful tool for us. Not evaluative, but just useful to improve our instruction at the elementary level. So that's one thing I wanted to highlight. The other was, we've been talking a lot in our building leadership about a schedule for next year, trying to make sure that what we have in our schedule minutes-wise matches our priority as a building, which in turn reflects what the strategic plan is saying is important for us. So that's something that we've been starting to work on. We had some good discussions tonight. We had a meeting, talking about what you show in your schedule reflects your priorities. And we want to make sure that the minutes aren't showing that our priority is recess time over content. Although we recognize that recess is important at the elementary level, we just want to make sure that what we're showing for a schedule truly represents our priorities as a building. So that's some work we're doing right now. So, any questions?
Any questions for?
It appears to me that over the last, say, this school year, you've been putting a lot of energy and interest into improving our performance in the classroom, providing opportunities for our staff to really focus on the educational value that they present every day in the classroom. And I really applaud that we're putting energy, the teachers themselves are putting in the energy, and the administrative team is supporting that energy, and we're looking to improve the educational atmosphere that we have in the elementary school.
Well, I hope so. I mean, that's really what the goal is, so I hope that's what we're.
But it's evident, I think, in your what I wanted to share is I think it's evident in your presentation tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
How have the virtual parent-teacher conferences, have been a lot of signups, or
I
that
think
was this week, right? Or
It's this week. I haven't gotten counts, but I know that the teachers have been busy with it.
good.
I was sick last week and changed my staff meeting, and I know that that impacted some of the attendance because they were in parent-teacher
Mhm.
conferences,
Sure.
and those came first. So I think that we're gonna find that our percentages are pretty good.
Good.
And the mix is good for the elementary,
Mhm.
being able to meet what the parents want.
Sure, that's great.
I have a question. Did you do the staff satisfaction survey yet? Did you have that? Was that on your list?
No, I think was that a district?
Oh, I have that, the staff expressing their needs and wants for peer help. We talked about that with the,
I haven't done that yet,
okay,
no,
okay,
but that is something that we have to take a look at.
thank you.
Guy, I don't know if viewing yourself teaching will improve your teaching, but it did a heck of a lot of good for my golf swing.
Well, I told them last night that one of the districts I worked at, it was, even as far as administrator, we had to record ourselves in a staff meeting and then sit and talk with the superintendent about it. And I didn't realize all the bad habits that I had developed as far as how I open a meeting, and probably have reverted to some of those again, but you know, it was helpful to be able to watch yourself.
Okay, anything else? Okay, Stacy, you up? Okay.
I'm next. Okay, there's just a couple things I want to highlight off of my report, and then one thing that kind of wrapped up before I was able to put it in here, because it just happened last week. So first of all, we talked about our 8th graders doing that Engineering Tomorrow lab that we did in Emily Bergnoli's class. So 7th grade is getting a chance to also use this as well. And they're going to be doing a special lab day that they had that is all like pre-recorded. So we're gonna actually be using that as an enrichment activity in their win time. And it was nice because the teachers are able to schedule it at their convenience, and it doesn't impact like having to reschedule all of the stuff that they would normally have going on. And it's an extra thing that the students can participate in. And the Engineering Tomorrow program is just, it's just awesome just because everything's free. Everything that you do it's free. So it's a great resource for us. And then just one thing to add for our ACP bullet, when Dawn was working to schedule the 8th graders going to Nicolay and Ponzi for some college and career exploration activities, that's actually scheduled now. It's happening on March 22nd, and she has that all set up for 3 different rotations for them to go to 2 different places at Nicolay and then go to Ponzi as well. We had 3 students from the middle school that participated in the regional spelling bee, And our 8th grader, Ryan Montag, took 4th overall in the region, so congratulations to him. And then Braxton Stromberg also competed as a 7th grader, and then Bodie Olson qualified, but he was sick that day. So he ended up missing out because he went home sick, so. But congratulations to him for qualifying. We had our first non-staff person come in and do our mystery guest announcement, and it was Dr. Riley, who coaches, and he knows a lot of the kids, and his son's in 7th grade. And it was hilarious again, because just like when we had Officer Sousa, his son had no clue that it was him, and literally did not believe us when we told him that it was him until he walked down the hall and saw his dad presenting Ms. Helt's class with their swag bags that they won, so that was actually pretty funny. But he had a really great message to our kids at the end of announcements, just talking about like hard work and work ethic, and it was a good thing, so it was really cool. And then lastly, our staff spotlight for February, Miss Loka and Miss Pluckelman. If you didn't get a chance to see that, make sure you click on the link, and we've had that around on the TVs at school, and just for everyone to see, because it's just cool that they get to know their staff members a little bit better. They can see it in the cafeteria and stuff, so it's pretty cool. So those are just some of the things I wanted to highlight off of the middle school report.
Okay. Any questions for Lisa?
Yeah, I'm curious, have they gone to the water treatment plant yet?
No,
When is
no,
that? Aren't they going to the water treatment plant?
no, this
I thought
is,
No,
this
but
is,
I thought there was a group going,
these guys are, this is a,
a whole different thing.
yeah, it's a whole different matter, yeah.
Anything else? Thank you.
Yeah.
Stace. Okay, Brian?
Okay. Looking at a couple of different bullets of action from our scorecard, there's a few that I wanted to highlight. One will be an agenda item later on, so we'll just save that piece. But, and I don't want to take away from something that Teresa might be presenting either, but I did want to speak to the literacy and numeracy goal, dealing with our special education and math and ELA departments, and just share my initial perspective on where we are in the process, just from my role within it. And I'm really pleased. There's been a lot of really deep level discussions going on with those departments, with basically looking at what the data says, where we want to go, how are we going to be able to achieve those goals, and one of the big things that I've enjoyed the most is staff being able to lay out a plan, and then actually looking at that plan and figuring out what's feasible now, what structural changes do we need to make, which are not always easy to do. To be able to accomplish those goals, because we always want to start out with, I've used the word the utopia version of what would be successful and effective, and we'll try to get as many of those points in as we can, and then just continue to peel back to where we find a barrier that for now, and I always use that word yet, that's just where we are for now, and then we'll just continue to keep moving at it. So it's been kind of an interesting time the last month, because we've been to a point where we've been able to start making commitments for next year. And that changes their next meeting sessions that they have. So the formal meetings and within this room where they're working on those things in a workshop model has been great. But then the follow-up conversations and meetings we've been having outside of that to start putting these things into place, I'm just very pleased with from my lens. So I just wanted to speak to that, because there's a lot of work going into it from those 3 different departments to put something together for our kids to implement next year. And we keep saying, anytime you do something innovative and new, you're gonna make some mistakes, so just plan for that. That's okay, we'll make adjustments. But, without diving in and taking those calculated risks, things will just stay the same. So, just wanted to commend those different departments that have been working on that. The other thing I wanted to mention now, just as a preview for you, is coming up in April is the first time that we'll be administering the pre-ACT exam to our 9th and 10th graders. And if you don't remember, the state had changed that required assessment of all of us, and this will be the first year of it. So when you look at our scorecard for the numeracy and literacy goals in the high school for achievement, that's where that was blank, because we didn't have any data, we didn't have anything to work from, because it's brand new. So that'll be great to get some initial data points coming off of that assessment that we can use and start to correlate with those FastBridge scores. Again, I just wanted to give you a heads up on planning is very much going on for that Teresa's involved with Sherry Woodall. They've been putting a lot of time and energy into that and starting to make some decisions. But I thought that was good just for you to be aware of that. We'll start getting a data point on that here soon this year. Other than that, any general questions before the agenda item later on?
I just have the last part, the whole student, with your data that you are looking at to address attendance. So just curious, is attendance a problem right now?
No, I mean, I guess that's one thing that as a school district, we're really, fortunate to have is an excellent attendance rate.
Okay.
And so when you're looking at our attendance rates of upper 90s, you're still looking at that as, if kids aren't here, they can't learn.
Right.
And so what we're really deeply looking at is, there's overall student body trends, but you're really trying to narrow it down to those maybe 10 students that you can really do more with and try to help them with figure out why their attendance is lacking. And then it's often a different group dynamic of going through and just providing those different services could be something as, they have a check-in, check-out staff member that they meet with once a week for 5 minutes at the start of the day to check in, and at the end of the day, checking out. And so they have a whole litany of different kinds of things that they do to work with students on attendance, and some of them are much deeper than that. Obviously, some of them are really working through a lot of different challenges at home and different environments, and that goes on to a whole other level. But you're right, we have an excellent attendance rate as a district, but we're still gonna make sure we want every single kid here with us learning and doing whatever we can do to help with that. Yeah.
Sure.
I just mentioned too, the one thing we're transitioning to is using that different tool, Skyward. There's some different settings and things that we can look at that help us narrow down those student demographics a little bit more. So that was kind of a big step for us, is to look into that tool a little bit more. And that's something, again, that Sherry works on diligently with some of her different committees that she works with within the school.
Any others? Thanks, Ryan.
Yeah.
Okay, Wendy, you're gonna go next?
Sure. Okay, so you have my report for just some areas I'd like to touch on. So Teresa and I have been working on aligning our multi-level systems of support. So tying those measurements in the strategic plan, along with what we do on a daily basis in instructional practices. So it's a guidebook, we're making a playbook. So teachers, board members, will be published on our site. Anybody, parents can look in and see like, okay, so if a student's struggling with this, where do I get help? How do I connect that? And then how does that tie into our numbers that we measure things with? So we'll link those, the strategic plan in our daily practice and how we measure and monitor those systems. And as Brian talked about too, that co-teaching, you can see up there that we listened, we met with the ELA and the math and the special ed teachers, and they talked about how will we meet these needs with the co-teaching. So I've aligned our SPED staffing and caseloads and worked with the teachers to look at how we can match so they're not having to mix grade levels all the time. So through switching around some assignments and how they serve kids, then we'll end up having one per grade level. And then at the high school, we'll have a focus on ELA and a focus on math so that we can address those measurements in our academic portion of the scorecard as well. So we met those needs so they can collaborate on a daily basis, have time to plan together, and not try to fight over how do I meet with this teacher and that teacher in order to have that common time, and they're not having, you don't have a middle school special ed teacher trying to know 6th, 7th, and 8th grade content. So then they have more contact time with the kids too, so how we realign things that should help with that. We met with Lincoln County about a month ago. He was at that meeting too. They have some new resources for us in Tomahawk. Previously, a lot of it got directed a little south of us because they were the county seat, so they have some more resources for us. So I've been working with Jane Bentz, and we haven't had a family night. She's with Aspirus since before COVID. So April 11th, we're gonna have a family night. We're gonna have from Head Start on up. We're gonna bring in some of the other community wraparound groups that we work with. We're gonna have activities for our students. We're gonna have for Head Start and 4K. They're gonna do a cooking class for the first 25 that sign up. Through the programs now, it used to be called WIC, but it's, I have to look at it, Health First Network it's called now. So with those youngest learners, so the first 25 that sign up will be able to come in, learn how to cook a meal, and get to take their appliance with them. So we're gonna do that twice a year, and then we'll also have another opportunity for 4K sign up, and a child find table, and North Central Healthcare I think is gonna have a table too, so we'll have a variety of different things for people, the parents to become engaged. Yes?
What date?
April 11th, it is a board meeting night. However, we with all of, we don't want to get into Wednesdays because Wednesdays are a problem. The next week is testing, so we don't want to get into testing. The week before is right after spring break. So planning wise, we thought about it and we're like, well, you know what, that gives you an opportunity. We're going to start around 5:30. Our meetings don't take too long. So you can pop it in ahead of time, maybe afterwards we'll come in, we'll try to come in and give our reports, but, so that's actually not a bad night, because you're here so you can come and see what we're doing too before or after, so. It's like a double-edged sword, kind of, benefit, but you might not get to hear us talk, it's so sad, isn't it? So other things coming up, Get Kids Ahead initiative, we were, the state came out with another round of that, so that gives us another $25,000 of free money, that, government money that we can help address student needs. We also got a train grant that we applied for. I can't honestly remember what train stands for, but it's to help students with self-regulation. CISA 10 organized it, so we have got $2,500, and the counselors and different staff at each building selected items from all levels to put into that, and we just got it finalized today, so we have like $2,500 worth of items coming to meet the needs of students at different levels. There was also a nursing grant that came out, so in order to give our paraprofessionals greater capacity to support students and the changing needs we have, as well as support nursing needs. Wendell and I have worked together with Nicolay and Kari Krieger, and we're gonna be offering a CNA class, not for our paras to act as CNAs, but to give them additional skills, and then also take DPI training so that they're just able to meet the variety of needs that we have. So it's just a good opportunity for us to be able to, with playground accidents, with the number of students with diabetes, there's just so many different things that our parents have to serve, so one more tool is not harmful for them, it helps us out. So, and it also gives them an opportunity to have an additional training for like summers or whatever, they could maybe pick up some side cash. So, and then our SEL curriculum. So like you talked about, our focus for here, and we spent a lot of time, for those of you there, talking about what we're looking at is, like Teresa talked about, like the VEST committee, and we spent all that time that the community made the posters, and what we want to see for Tomahawk, and what does that mean for us? So aligning to those goals that you and the community identified through that strategic plan. And so not what SEL looks like for Washington DC or West Virginia, I think you said your article. What does that mean for us here in Tomahawk? So when we sat, we did a lot of discussion and problem solving, and we had our committee members look at 4 or 5 questions. What are the hopes and needs? What are the hopes and needs and concerns of the community right now? So we identified those. What should a school look like, sound like, and feel like to serve the community? What kind of skill building is the most important for students? What do students and adults need in order to thrive here in Tomahawk? And then we also considered, but we didn't get time for the last question, on what was the impact of school closures and community closures, and how is that impacting the function in the daily setting? So then our counselors brought data from each building, so we looked at that. So we'll come back next time and we'll develop based on the strategic plan, the information from that, what we came up with. We have it all parsed out into 5 different categories. What does that look like for us? So then we develop a vision, and then we look at different types of curriculum. So that vision of what we think Tomahawk needs drives which curriculum we look at, rather than here's a curriculum, let's fit
Good.
what we want to it. Does that answer your question on?
Helps a lot.
Okay,
Thank you.
so that's about all I have to say.
Am I correct in understanding, SEL is not new here, right? This is just, you're trying to make it better and have the community, what does Tomahawk want, right?
Correct. So currently, we're using second step curriculum, which goes
Yeah.
through 4K through 8th grade. Well, that doesn't meet high school needs.
Mhm.
So what are we doing there to address the need? And our current, that we had a 3-year contract on the program, and it had some good things, but it had some things like we could do better. So since the contract is up, we thought, let's bring people in and see what we're looking at and what we need. So that's why, and we've, I'm old, some of you might be older than me, but we've been doing guidance class forever. At the meeting, I brought up Dussel the dolphin. I don't know if you had that, Mr. Wetzel.
Yes, we
The
did.
little puppet. We did Dussel the dolphin, we talked, so it just evolves, it just is
Mr.
different.
Sullivan.
Yeah, and Dussel the dolphin, if we sat in front of our group of kids now, they'd be like, what the heck are you doing? So what do we need here? That's what we're looking at.
Yep.
And now, so.
Good. Thank you. Any other questions for?
I'm glad you were able to make the connections with that Lincoln County program.
Yeah, and I've been going to them for 4 years, but they finally got some money just for us, and we don't have to arm wrestle Mayor over. So,
Teresa?
Okay, I know I have a lot of stars and bullet points, but the connections between all of these are exciting for me. We recently did our mid-year data review, so after our benchmark assessment, which is FastBridge, we were able to go into all grade level teams at the elementary and the math and literacy teams at the middle school, and then the math and literacy teams at the high school. And some celebrations were just really fun to have with teachers. The fact that Win Time is working successfully at some grade levels are celebrations, but they're also, they make us think, right? Whenever you do something new, you say what's working, what's not, what can we do better? And the teachers are asking those questions. It's really cool to see all the teachers talking about the students and what the students need and what's working and where their time can be best served. So the conversations from the beginning of the year have shifted to student needs, whereas in the beginning of the year it was structure. It was that first order change, right? What is this gonna look like? What time is this gonna take? What is our progress bond going to? Who's gonna supervise all these kids? But now we've shifted finally mid-year to these conversations around what's working and what's not. And I love that, and because of that, we're going to see some results. Evidence of that, high school has in their second year of really being conscientious about the practices they're doing during resource time, both with their students of need, and we are seeing growth, especially in ELA. They're seeing a ton of growth in their students. They're being very conscientious about what their core content looks like, as well as what their support and resource looks like. So those questions that we have, or those conversations that we have around growth are good. They spill into, you can see the part of my report that talks about curriculum review. We will always look at data, what's working, what's not, and you can see we have quite a few curriculum reviews going on at the elementary right now. But if you look at the first part of the report under math and literacy leadership activities, those are still looking into how do we best serve throughout our system as kids move through our system. We've always had the philosophy of early intervention, and we have a lot of interventionists trying to support classrooms as well as in students in small groups. And some of the interventionists have moved into teaching like Read 180 at the high school, and our algebra class at the high school as students are moving through the accelerated program for math. So we've shifted personnel to address needs going up K-12. And I want to get to that. We are discussing right now those continued needs in the area of literacy as students move up through middle school and high school. And high school implemented years ago Read 180, and they had great success with Read 180. The research base around Read 180 is strongest at the middle school, and the goal for us is to catch those students still struggling with literacy even earlier. So those efforts were great in trying to catch students that were still demonstrating need, but kids who are sitting in Read 180 in high school are missing other learning opportunities. So we are shifting because of the research base, because of the need, and because of the opportunities we want for kids at the high school. We are trying to long-term shift those interventions down to the middle school. So in our transition next year, we've proposed that middle school would use Read 180 as a solid intervention that's scheduled for those students who are still struggling with literacy, and it means something we'll give for them in their schedule, but if it's a priority, it's a priority. And we want to make it a priority in middle school, so they're not missing opportunity in high school when they get there. So we're moving that Read 180 down to the middle school, and next year, a year of transition, we'll still have it offered at the high school as well as at the middle school. So these are going to be hard conversations ahead for our guidance counselors. In fact, I already went to Dan, and I said, what does that conversation look like? And Dawn's going to have to start having it at the middle school now about what that means for a student in their schedule when they're taking an intervention for literacy when they probably rather be somewhere else during part of their day. But so those are good conversations that continue to serve our system K-12 for our students with the priority of literacy and numeracy. So a lot of interconnected pieces throughout the report, but really based on our priorities. Any questions at all? A lot of stuff going on right now.
Any questions for Teresa? Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Ron, I just have one comment around SEL. Because it will eventually be a board-approved curriculum, I think it would be helpful if, when there's a significant definition, when there's significant understanding of what that's going to be, that the board receive an interim report so that we can grow as a board right along with the committee as it grows and gain an understanding of where we're headed as a district, rather than wait till the end and then find out for whatever reason, and I don't believe this is going to happen, but for whatever reason the board would choose not to approve it.
We actually have those already planned, and I forgot to mention that part. So we had part of our commitments that we made to that advisory group and the community for that transparency is to have a midway, in addition to our board reports, a midway and an end informational session too. So we already have those scheduled on April 6th and May 11th. So we're gonna have another informational session to say, okay, this is where we're at now, these are our last steps, and then our final step.
But is that a formal report to the board?
No.
I'm looking for a formal report to the board as to the outline. I don't wanna put you in a box, but when there's something significant about the direction and the content and the whatever, I think it would be nice for the board to be able to see what that is, so that, as I said, we can come along with you and gain an understanding and provide our board viewpoint.
Sure.
Not that that should be the viewpoint, but provide a board viewpoint into that process.
So our next two sessions are developing the vision, so we will bring that vision back, and then exploring the potential 3 curriculums that we're considering that our counselors suggested to us.
Another thing that we've done, not only for the board, but the public at large, is we put all of our resources that we've used right on our website. So it's on the teaching and learning page, right in the left-hand column. Every single presentation we've used to this date is there as well. So any questions related to those slides, we can answer as we do our monthly updates for sure. Yeah.
Sharon, are you two part of this committee?
That was my question.
Yeah,
You're
they're
part
part of the committee,
as well.
right? Too, Dick. So they're
So-
involved, yeah.
So we have board
So the board has representation
I do have
on this
one
committee. So
follow-up,
those two are on there,
question, comment.
which is
I looked to find, you guys were gonna put a board out there for comments for committee members.
Yes.
Have you done that yet? Cause I
Yes.
haven't found it.
Yes, so it is.
So you can just shoot me the link in an email if you would.
Okay.
Yeah, that's probably the best way to do it.
Why don't I show you, because I already
Either
did
way.
that, I'll show you before you,
Either
so
way.
you can see where it was shared.
Thank you.
Yes,
Okay,
I did go and look for it, I'm like,
No, because that's important to have that up there.
For
So
sure.
if we can't find it, then we need to make sure we can.
any other questions or comments? Okay, Wendell gave us Scott's report. So next agenda item is elementary AGR report. Guy, are you gonna give us that?
Yes, the achievement gap reduction is something that we work on each year. In the past, it's class size reduction is one element of it. With our class sizes, we don't fall under that criteria anymore. So the instructional coaching is the component we use, and we have had CISA 9 in. We also utilize our interventionists as some instructional coaching. So this is a report that each of the grade level teams develops. It's kindergarten through 3rd grade. They set their baseline in the fall. They put in the assessment practice, or what assessments that they're going to use for this report. And then this is the time of year where we have like an update, or where we're at as far as how each grade level is doing. The thing that was interesting, because I don't give them any, other than it, unless they need some guidance, I don't go into their grade level team meetings. They give this to me, they send it to me. So it was interesting to me to see the number of grade levels that mentioned that win time, and that being something that they're utilizing, or a component that they decided to put into their report. You know, there were some concerns this year. You know, we have some work to do. Our math scores to me looked pretty solid as far as where we're at right now. But we have some work to do in the area of reading. The classroom teachers are aware of that, we've had some discussions, so we're gonna be purposeful in our next, we don't have a lot of time left, it's February. This data was from January, so we have until the end of the school year to try to meet the goals that we've established here. And in some grade levels, we have some work to do, but we're aware of that, and we're gonna be purposeful and try to tackle it. So I don't know if you have any specific questions on the report itself.
Do you think some of that is from the COVID? part of it?
I don't know, I don't wanna continually say
Mhm.
COVID. I would just rather not, I don't know what connection that has anymore. I mean, I'm
Okay.
sure there maybe is some impact, but, we just talk a lot about, let's eliminate our excuses, and COVID is definitely something that happened, we're not taking
Mhm.
away from that, but, we just wanna see if we can, address the problem without focusing too much on that.
Good
Good.
idea.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Guy? Okay. Okay, we're on to 13, approve the annual building and grounds priority project list. Is getting that from,
Yep, so this, Arlen will present.
Arlen's gonna get it?
Yeah, you've all received a copy. I mean, is there any questions about anything that's on there? It's a much shorter list. The remainder of the roofs here are 30-plus years old, looking to try to take the bulk of the budget and knock that out. That still leaves us with 11 that are already at the 20-year mark. So, and that's where I want to get into, a schedule for replacement, so we don't get so far behind the ball again, moving forward. It's still a struggle with contractors and even getting bids on anything. Even companies we have a strong relationship with, everybody is just still swamped, and so it's, as you've seen, again, it's no longer necessarily a summer project. We try to get as much done in the summer, but when the contractors are available, we're having to just work things in as best we can and minimize the impact. We did replace the bleachers, which has been an ongoing safety concern. We did have a lot of student participation with helping with that, and that was great and very helpful. Also saved us a lot of money with us doing the demolition port. So that's now, they've wrapped that up today, so we're good to go there.
Are you getting anything from the contractors that they just don't have the people? They're having a hard time hiring?
People and time and material. Even some of our projects, one of our project for replacing the power for the middle school and half of the high school, that was supposed to have shipped last Friday, and that's when they said, okay, well, your delivery date's now 5/26. It's like, wait a minute, how do we go from, it's supposed to be on the truck last Friday to, so it still makes no sense. So it's just ongoing, and we just gotta keep doing the best. I just try to stay on top of them, and it's the world we live in right now. Everybody's got the same issues, and trying to get our best value for what we're doing and take care of the schools best we can.
Okay.
All that.
Good.
Any questions about anything that's on there? Thank you.
Okay, then entertain a motion to approve the project list. Go ahead, just a minute. Entertain a motion to approve the project list.
I so move.
Second,
Second.
further discussion? Go
Where
ahead.
does the $857,000 come from in our budget? Are we taking $857,000 out of the surplus that we're gonna use 2 years from today?
No,
Or is that truly additional funds available that will not impact any of the educational and maintenance type programming that will take place 2+ years from now?
so this is out of my budget. I'm taking all this doesn't touch the Fund 46 at this point, so I'm trying to utilize as much out of my budget, keeping that Fund 46 for some of the other bigger projects, because again, there's no time deadline on the 46 once it's in there. So my budget ends at the end of this, school year, and so that's why I'm working to utilize my budget for all this as much as I can to get things taken care of.
Thank you.
And it looked like you took a lot of the priority ones off your capital, off that one and put them here.
Any further discussion? Okay, I have a motion, a second, to approve the annual building and grounds priority project list. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, item 14, approve the updated Fund 46 capital project list.
So this is, there's really not anything new on this list other than the updates of, you can see on there we reprioritized some of it. We added a key which was asked, before, so you can see what's a 1, a 2, and a 3, so you know
Yeah.
where that's at. And then the projects that have been completed already, we just outlined in red and put across through those just to give a visual on what's been accomplished. There's nothing that has been added to this list other than possibly the updating of the roofs, so.
Okay. Then I would entertain a motion to approve the updated Fund 46 capital project list.
I so move. Full.
Second. Motion is second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, item 15, approve elementary dean students behavior specialist position.
Okay, so this would be a specialist position that would be added for next year in the elementary. Just to give you some background, and Guy's gonna present some data here in a second to support this, but one of the struggles that he's seeing and that he's having, and that's, across the elementary as a whole right now is some of the behaviors and some of the, lack of ability to provide the support that we need to, just from a personnel standpoint. And it's been an ongoing issue for years. And as I've looked into this a little bit and made some phone calls around, typically you start to see an associate principal in a school when they've got somewhere between 350 to 400 students. And that seems to be kind of that cutoff number across the state. We're at 560 students in our elementary. And I don't believe this is really a new problem, but it's a problem that obviously has some new contributing factors, and it's gonna need a new and fresh approach. So what we're proposing here is that we would add this position. It would be funded out of ESSER, and then as we get to the end of our ESSER funds next year, it would give us the opportunity to really make an assessment on whether or not this position had an impact and what that impact was, and as we look at restructuring things and what we can keep and what we're gonna have to let expire, I guess at that point, that would factor into the conversation. So the other piece of it is we don't know, there's too many variables right now that we don't know about in terms of the state budget. There may be an opportunity if we get some significant increases in school funding that this wouldn't be an issue, and maintaining some of these positions beyond next year wouldn't be an issue. But right now, the way things stand, more than likely some decisions would have to be made. So this is really an opportunity that we have right now to put a position in place to try to address these behaviors and then measure whether or not it's effective in the route that we want to go or need to go in the future. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Steckbauer, and he can present the data that he's got.
Well, I believe we attached some of the slides, and some of the slides were the same slides that were used at the SCL. So a few of you may have seen these slides before. But it shows an increase in the behaviors that we're seeing at the elementary level. The visits to the Hawaii room were also mentioned. Right now, we're on pace to double the amount of major disciplinary reports that we had last year. And like Wendell said, we have quite a large student population. And at times I feel like as good a job as Denise Pysick is doing at the elementary, I'm asking her to do some things as a school counselor that isn't appropriate. She should be able to maintain relationships, and sometimes with the amount of disciplinary things that I'm dealing with, I'm pushing a lot onto her, and it's causing her to do a job somewhat outside of what a school counselor should. She's there to be that shoulder for our students, and if she has to be involved in discipline, it takes away that opportunity for the students. Amanda Roberts is our Hawaii person, and there's been times where it's pushed her out of the job that we've hired her to do because she's taking care of some of the surplus discipline reports. I don't know why we're seeing more discipline. We may be able to look at do some information gathering as far as families, but I do know that we, for one reason or another, I talked to other elementary principals, we're seeing a large amount of elementary students being raised by grandparents, great-grandparents. The family structures have changed. We're seeing an increase in behaviors, and maybe that's the direct result. Like I mentioned before, we have a large elementary school. In addition to Teresa and Amanda Robert, I was going to mention Teresa and Wendy helped me out a lot with behaviors when I'm very bogged down. But we have quite a few people trying to tackle the problem, and it's not always the role that they were hired for. What I'm finding is that I'm doing a lot of suspending, and I don't necessarily think that that is what we want for our elementary students. If they're suspended, that they're not getting the academics. Sometimes I don't feel like I'm making contacts with the family and explaining, but I'm not having the time to work with the families enough to be able to correct the problem. Some of our frequent flyers are getting suspended multiple times, and it's not helping them academically, and it's not really changing the behavior. So by hiring Adina students, a behavioral specialist, the hope is that we can increase those parent contacts and try to improve this situation so that we're not having to suspend and deal with the same behaviors. Will it be the answer? I don't know, but it's got to be a better alternative than what we've been doing.
Okay, any questions?
Guy, does everybody know what the Hawaii room is? Yeah, okay, I don't know if that was, you mentioned that a couple of times.
Yeah, I think I sensed maybe that we had refocused our Hawaii room, and some of that was because of what I was talking about. We were throwing some problems at that room, and it was really kind of losing its focus, but in some cases it was because we didn't have anywhere else to go with some of the issues we were dealing with.
And I would add, if you look through the job description that's being proposed there, you'll see that this is not a chief disciplinarian. This is somebody that comes in and can provide support to families, can provide support to students, most importantly, can provide support to our staff in terms of being in a classroom, looking at sometimes that classroom dynamic. We mentioned just a little bit earlier on how sometimes telling it is when you have another person in there that can maybe see things through a different lens, and you can adjust classroom structures and universal practices that might have a huge impact on your data, or on your behavior. So that part of it, and the second part is, we as a district, we as an elementary school, we need a principal who can also dedicate as much time to the instructional practices and the instructional leadership on that side of that building is right now is having to be dedicated to the behavioral side. So I see this as a pretty important position, and I think it will have an impact, but I look forward to, if it's approved, to being able to measure that and see how much it would help.
I do have a question about this, or a guy, whoever wants to answer. And when I look at data that suggests that, you mentioned we're doubling our trips to the Hawaii room, and we've got some other, issues, obviously behavioral issues going on. I think you hit the nail on the head. It'd be probably beneficial for us as a district to try and investigate why this is happening and if there's something more that we can do. But we can't do it within the resources we have. Obviously, everybody is stretched thin. So I assume that this position will be able to at least look into that, hopefully somewhat in the course of their duties, right? Connect with families, trying to figure out what's going on and why this is occurring.
Correct.
We'd like to, and I feel bad sometimes because I don't feel like I'm connecting with the families enough on some of these behavioral situations. So the hope really is that this person can really have more of a connection with the families and support that student so that we're not having to suspend as often as what we seem to do.
Okay.
Is this like a limited repeat offender sort of thing? Or is it, if that's the right word to use, or is it a variety of students that are?
I think we have some repeat offenders that would benefit by knowing that they're not gonna just get sent home. Sometimes I'm
Good.
feeling like these behaviors are repeated because they know that they can get sent home, and then family structures are very different. Some of these families, the parents are working, so there's not somebody sitting there with them to make sure that this isn't just a fun day. So the hope would be that, when these behaviors come up, we have a person that can sit so that the student knows that they're not gonna just do these behaviors and go home and do nothing for a day. That they're gonna be there, maybe it'll be a different environment, and they still are going to do the academic work, because, it's a vicious circle. I sometimes feel that these students that are getting sent home are the ones that aren't doing very well in school, and that's why they wanna go home. So this way we can support them academically and get improvement.
Yeah. Thank you.
Do you work with kinship? And would you work with kinship and share some of that stuff with it, or not share it, but share the practices with them that you use in the school? I don't know how to put this.
I know what you're saying.
You know what I'm saying.
Are you asking if they're connecting with community organizations?
Well, connecting, but just that that they have the same expectations at kinship or outside the school as they would in the
Continuity
school.
from the school.
Continuity.
Consistency.
I work night shift. I'm
I
trying to
know,
get
I
my
get it.
words out.
I think there can be that connection.
Yeah.
Kinship is coming into the building more often now, and that's nice. And I think that there can be that connection.
Just to share,
Yeah.
what you use for practices and that type of thing is what I'm talking about, not necessarily the students and that type of thing, but they understand that's the
Well,
common
there's
thing.
two different environments too, so I'm on the board
Yeah.
of kinship, right?
Mhm.
And it's a different environment. We're not asking them to do something that's really hard for them academically at kinship unless they're there for tutoring, which doesn't start till they're a little bit older. They are some of the same students.
Mhm.
So conversations, there's open records requests filled out for every one of the kinship kiddos. So there can be a conversation back and forth. And I know kinship tries to do that.
Okay.
And we have some of our students too, in addition with community organizations like North Central Healthcare that support some of our students with highest needs, some with disabilities, some with not, but they also have release of information, so they will coordinate with the classroom teachers as well as the home and provide supports and services there as well, and some education and therapy, so.
So you'll have that communication, so this person will have the communication with the other groups and they understand what goes on.
Okay, any other questions? I guess, obviously, the times have changed. It's, Bob, how would you and I feel if you have to go home and tell your dad you got sent
Oh,
home?
God, no, please don't beat me now, but don't tell my dad. My dad was a policeman. You did not go home and bring that to the table.
Right.
But I understand what you're talking about, because the students that are being sent home, they need to be in school probably the most. So you're losing them even more. And the idea is to get them in there and get as much help as possible. I think this is a good thing for us to do for the kids. I really do.
Plus the impact on the rest of the students, so if you have one student, so far this year, 429 majors in the elementary, so you think about 429 incidents. So not only the impact on that student, but the other 20 kids in the room, and the teacher having to reset and recalibrate and get back.
It's a
going.
domino effect all
So,
the way up and
and we're
down.
halfway through the year, so 429 times how many incidents for how many kids? I mean, that's a lot of minutes lost.
Yeah.
I think this is wonderful. I
I
think
do
it's
too.
way overdue. We used to always have two principals. But I also believe that our school district needs to do a better job before they get to school with our parents. We're treating them after they're here. We need to reach out before they start school. Do a better job of that.
Now, this gives us a good start, I think, on addressing the issues, and I think we need to go that. I believe with all my heart.
I think it was a very good thing. I also think we need to take a look at class sizes, you know, in the elementary school and what we can do to get those numbers down, because there's no doubt in my mind that when you start getting over 16 kids in a classroom, especially at the youngest
You
of
think?
ages. Yeah, oh, I more than think. I know.
23 in kindergarten?
You know, especially at the kindergarten, first grade level, you know, pre-K obviously. But I think we need to, this is a absolutely much needed position, regardless of what you label it. I think this is a well thought out, you know,
Yeah.
guideline as far as the role of, their role and their responsibilities.
Well, you're gonna see
But I
the
also
effects.
believe, yes, but I also believe we
Up
need to
and
take
down.
that next step, and we need to figure out how we can reduce sizes
Yeah.
in our kindergarten, at least in our kindergarten and first grade classrooms, or reduce class sizes. So,
Okay, then I'd entertain a motion to approve the elementary dean of students behavior specialist position.
I so move.
I'll second.
Swanty?
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Then all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, high school schedule update.
Okay. So, I'm here with several members of our high school building leadership team. So Allison Ewert, Dan Ryder, and Jim Norman. So there's actually, I think, 9 of us on the building leadership team, but they were willing to come tonight and field some questions. I've been voluntold to kind of give an overview for you, but they're very much here to answer any questions you have. So you did receive some information that you were able to review, but I think it's good just to speak to some of it. And I think it's important for us to kind of remember in this concept of the big ideas, that our goals are for students to graduate from high school, life, career, and for those that need to go on to college, college ready. And that's what we're always talking about, and that's that redefining ready concept we've been bringing back to you from time to time and working on some of those indicators. So, you know, looking at our strategic plan and many of the action items that we had highlighted through different categories and pillars, they all interconnect. And basically, as a building leadership team, we've been looking at, you know, what are the current needs that we see within classrooms? Where are we predicted to go in some of the action planning that we have in those classrooms? Predicting far beyond that we know there's going to be more work coming to us that we need to be able to accommodate to be able to get kids in good places to be life ready. So we're basically going to be revising our schedule by creating an 8th period. And so operationally, you won't see a lot of difference in how the day runs, but what you'll see within classrooms will be looking different, and you'll also see the opportunities for students being different. So what you'll end up seeing is, as we've highlighted in some of the different components is, you know, we want students to be able to dive more deeply into our career pathway courses. Right now, especially at the younger levels of freshman and sophomore years, because of required classes, their schedules fill up pretty quickly. And we want kids to be able to have the opportunity to do more exploring yet coming out of middle school into our high school courses, to kind of look for those career interests, to you know, find out more about themselves, and start to have more experiences at a younger age. And then as they get older and they start to narrow that funnel a little bit, they can dive more deeply into coursework, dealing with that. And that could be the same as far as, you know, their academic and career plannings, if they need more math for what they're choosing to go into. You know, to be able to dive more deeply and prepare themselves for those different perspectives. So in that document, you can see we created a lot of bullets, but we were trying to kind of capture some of those overarching things that you would see from a student perspective and the different advantages you would see for students. And then also what you would see as advantages from a staff perspective and how they can prepare for students, as well as some things underneath our district workforce and acknowledging a lot of the things that they've been doing through their own work up to this point. And what we really looked at was, you know, through this directly for them, you know, there's more opportunities to plan out their courses and be better teachers for kids every day on a daily basis with the classes that they're instructing. So it's this big picture idea, but within this we'll call it modification to our current schedule. It's not drastically different. We feel like the benefits for students are exponential. Again, thinking of the future as well, not just what we see today, but what we can predict we need to be doing and going forward with. So I know there was a lot there, but do you have specific questions for ELT members or myself that we can clarify?
The list that you have here, it's English 4, Math 3, and so on. I assume that's, if you had English for a full year, that's one credit then, correct? Okay, so you got the electives at 7.5. Is that where the extra credit's going to be put? Is in the elective?
Is that the next agenda?
That's
item,
the
or do you
next
want me to-
agenda.
Oh, okay, okay.
I can. Do you-
Okay,
Yes.
Sorry.
To answer your question quickly, yes.
okay,
Um,
all right. Sorry.
no, you're fine.
Any questions?
When would do you work that where that all of a sudden you need 23 credits to graduate? Is it when you're an incoming freshman or, I mean, would you do that your senior year? Or,
Incoming freshmen will be told that they have to have 23 credits, and we've done this before, and we understand.
I think I recall that.
Yeah.
So it would be next year with the incoming freshmen,
Yep,
right?
and then just keep that going, yeah.
Okay,
I like the idea of the 21 minutes within the class proper, because I think it says to the student, we've now discussed this information, and you have work to do, and I'm available here to have you at least begin that work while you're with me. I think it increases the emphasis on student accountability, not just to sit and listen and hear discussion that goes on, but to, in essence, because you're gonna have to be there another 21 minutes, okay, within that classroom, whatever that turns out to be. I think we can, not only we provide the expertise of the teacher, but I think we also increase the accountability to do the work as well as hear the work.
Is that 21, isn't that 21-minute resource hour at the end of
Within
the
the-
day?
So what the difference is, right now,
Yeah.
right now, there's 7 48-minute periods with a
Yeah.
36-minute resource hour. Next year, there will be 8 44-minute periods, and the resource hour goes to 21 minutes.
So it's
So
just
it's
one
not
21
21 minutes in every.
So
Yeah.
we basically
Oh,
One
okay.
20-minute
stole-
at the end of the
stole
day.
I'm sorry, I misunderstood that.
Yeah.
is that also win time too?
We've had resource hour, we call it resource hour.
I knew it was resource
Yeah, we've
hour,
had that for
but is that when win
14
time would
years,
occur?
probably,
Yeah,
something
got it.
like that.
The win time would occur during that time too, if they needed, so chose or needed?
Right, we have a highly functioning resource hour right now, where there's a whole setup of things available to students, opportunities, and, yeah, we've been doing that for quite some time.
That's
So,
I
that
can-
still stays intact,
Mhm.
with this current structure, was one of the things we really valued. And, you know, it's always one of those, we've had a lot of discussions as a building leadership team of, you know, are you willing to sacrifice a few minutes each hour and have a slightly, you know, shorter resource period because of all these other potential gains and things that you've identified? So we felt at this point in time that that was a strong move to go forward with, that it was worth the time sacrifice for what you're gaining.
So from you guys, what do you think your biggest challenge is gonna be with this? If any?
I see more positives than challenges on the student side and teacher side. We can look at all the more class options they can take, they'll have that option. Obviously, when you read the document, they'll have to take at least still one study hall, but they can have 2 if they want, but, you know, maybe some of them will have 2 some year and have that, a mental break through the day, plus time to work on it. You look at that, how many of our students are in athletics and co-curricular, there's a lot going on. They don't really have a lot of time, or working, youth apprenticeship, they don't have a lot of time outside of school. So giving them that availability to have it within school, and now having resources with them while they have that time, either if teachers are free or other teachers in the building, I see a lot of positives coming from it. And on our side, I like doing more innovative things in my classroom, and when I don't have a lot of time to create those new items, and obviously I do it outside of school as well, we all do it, but being able to have more of that time and get things ready and get things prepped for our classes. And also, I think, what is it, like 50% of us have 4 or more preps in a day. I'm at 8 throughout a year, so, and a lot of us are on those high numbers. That it's gonna give us time to make classes better for all our students.
The other challenge is gonna be, you know, kids have to take a study hall with this new schedule, and I can already see arguing with kids making them take a study hall, because they wanna do stuff. You know, protecting themselves from themselves. Oh boy, I can take more classes. No, you can have 1 more. having a study hall. No, I'm not, yes, you are. You know, that's gonna happen a lot. That's okay, I mean, but we'll win.
A positive note is,
Not a boy, Dan.
all that discussion that he's talking about is that they will actually, with the 7, they're like, kind of just have these, take these classes, but how about taking something for fun? How about taking something in the arts that's just something that's creative, and the power of that? The challenges that you asked for, it's the time. You think just taking 4 minutes, but man, time with those kids, like when you mentioned that time to have them work in class when you're there to ask questions, because it's very stressful for a student to be, I'm gonna try to pick up something new at home. I'm gonna ask Dad, that's not the way I was taught math, you know? No, but to do that when I'm there or when my colleague's there to answer questions. So taking a little bit of time off of resource hour and a little bit of time off class, that is a challenge. But one thing about our leadership team is like, when there's a challenge like that, it's not like, oh, can't do it. Okay, now we're just gonna sit and brainstorm, how do we go around this?
Good.
But yeah, that's there, that's not a roadblock, it's a speed bump. And so that is the structure that we're gonna be looking at really closely, how do we structure our resource hour, how do we structure our classes? That 4 minutes might be a little bit different, so we still can have that time to ask questions and work with them, and like listen to some of the discussions here, just the relationship building that you need before you can even start the learning. That is a challenge that we're still gonna try to do it, and it's just a work in progress at this point.
I agree.
So what would the size of this, what you call a resource period?
It
I'd
depends
call it
on
a
what
study
you're
hall.
doing for that resource hour.
Pardon?
In a resource hour, when I have mine structured, sometimes you just have a guided study, which they just come in and they can work out quietly or do something. And if you're doing something like that, to get everyone to have a home, it was about 12 to 15 is about an average place to put it. But when it's time for me to be working one-on-one, to what we call intervention time, getting up to 15 is crazy. It's like you just NASCAR, left turn, you got 2 minutes, boom, 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 and that's ridiculous. If we can get that down to 8 to 10, where I can sit down and I can spend not just a drive-by, but a sit down, I'm gonna listen to you, you're gonna listen to me, a give and take. 8 or less, 10 is pushing it, is a good number.
So is this resource period throughout the day?
No,
Or is it-
it was put at the end of the day. She mentioned the benefit of sports. It was put at the end of the day because a lot of our top students are the ones that are most active. And our best students are taking some of the most rigorous courses are also in 3 sports. And when we didn't have that, whatever class they had last hour, they took it on the chin. I teach Algebra 2, which is kind of a rough one. And that's where our participating student body is. And if they, especially in the spring when they gotta leave early, if they miss 3 class periods every week due to a away game, those poor kids are struggling. By putting the resource hour at the end, we minimize the time that they've missed. They're not missing on new instruction. They're missing on some study time, some intervention time, but they're not missing new instruction. So this is at the end of the day.
Okay, so this is not what I'm familiar with, the old-fashioned study hall.
The study hall is different.
So it's the same, right now we have the resource hour at the end of the day as well for the last couple of years here, but right now it's 30-some minutes and it'll just be shorter, it'll be 21 minutes because the time taken away from resource hour, because of the class periods, having another class period and those class periods just being 4 minutes shorter, and then our resource will just be a little bit shorter. So same structure, same every resource, just a little bit shorter resource hour.
Okay, so how is a student placed in a
I know where you're going.
resource?
I'm ready for you.
All right.
So
Okay, I
basically-
want some math help, and I'm sitting in there with Bob, okay?
There's a problem.
That's your first problem.
Yeah, no, at first, they have a time in the beginning, on every Monday, they have a time from 8 o'clock till, is it open till?
12:30.
Yeah, whatever the time, they self-select. Okay, they can self-select, like, I'll be talking with my students, hey, we need to retake this test. Yeah, I signed up for you on Tuesday, no, I signed up for you on Wednesday. Or we also can do what we call a hard schedule. All right, and sometimes on the ones that are elusive that don't want to show up, we say, okay, you're coming to me on Wednesday. And we'll put a little check mark and everyone can see that not only is he signed up for my class, but I want him. And no one else is gonna take him for that class period. So they're self-selecting on Mondays, and after that, we can go, as staff can go in and go out and get, bring in. And sometimes they'll come to us, hey, I need to get in, can you put me in? And we'll do that too, so.
So it's, when they self-select, it must be a maximum number then that you
Yeah,
have
when
for a given.
when the max is reached, you no longer, they can't see you. So they have a list of people they can see, a drag down menu, who is available for that time. And when you're full, you're not on that list anymore.
Kind of like buying football tickets.
Yeah. So, okay, so then that's done on a Monday?
Yes.
And when can you do it? When can you say, I want you?
Anytime I want.
We can do it the week before.
I could do it prior, during, or whatever is needed. We have quite a bit of flexibility on that.
There's some
Okay,
staff
so
that
if
can-
you're assigned to a resource room, let's say, is that how it works?
Yep,
You-
you can.
Our classroom, it's like assigned to an individual classroom.
Okay, all right. And this individual, and your class is full with the 8 or whatever the number is, but can you bump a student, or can you bring them in when you need them?
I'll go in and I'll up my numbers. I'll give them advice that, well, this is getting big, you get less time with me, but I can up the numbers that I have available. It's a flexible.
So it's
thing.
pretty flexible?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Flexi schedule.
Yes.
Okay.
It's an automated program that we purchased.
Well, I hope so.
Yeah. It's really great. I mean, it's.
Great. I'm glad you're dealing with it.
No, it's really, even I
It's been
can
a
do
game
it.
changer.
Dan can do it, we're good.
It's been going 7 or 8 years now that they've had
Flexi
resource.
schedule itself.
No, the
has been-
resource hour.
Resource hour 15 probably, maybe not 15.
No, it's not 15, because I know it's,
13.
it's
It was in my second
probably
year
about 10,
teaching.
yeah.
13.
Back when
Okay.
you were teaching, you would maybe give a pass during your prep from study hall, or during your lunch, or something like that. We still can do that, but we don't have to as much now because this takes the place of that. What you used to do on the side in your lunch and your prep or your after school, we have a set scheduled time to do it, and it's been wonderful.
Okay, great. Great, thank you. I
Well-
learned something.
Will there still be a 0 hour?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
How many, how many classes are offered at that time?
2.
2, okay. And
Okay,
it's reducing from 48 to 44, you said?
Correct.
Okay. Yeah, I remember having this discussion quite a while ago when they were talking about changing the periods and all that. So it's not gonna affect the classroom much. I know it was talking about like the science classes when you got into projects or things like that. You were able to work through a lot of that stuff.
Mhm.
Okay, because that was the big discussion back
And I
then.
think one other really important thing just to continue to highlight is remember how interdependent the high school and middle school is. And so this is also a process that still works for the middle school and what they're trying to accomplish. So that's something that they can work through. And the other piece too to kind of think about is that this does, as far as teaching staff, does impact our shared staff. The shared staff don't have any built-in planning time through the middle school schedule, they get it through the high school schedule. So this also is going to have an opportunity to help them prep more for middle school courses, our shared staff members, I should say. So that's a nice benefit as well.
How many
Okay.
periods are there in middle school?
It has to be the same.
It's good, yeah, because it was.
But our structure's different.
I know.
Because we have core blocks in like 6th and 7th grade, and then the 8th grade follows the high school schedule exactly. So I may or may not have had to do like 9-8 drafts of this.
Yeah,
So
I was
make
gonna
it better.
say,
But it's fine, it works out great. It
Okay.
actually, it's a good thing. And we were talking about like, you know, looking at our middle school schedule and how, what they have at the end of the day, resource hour, we call teen time, it's the same thing. We were looking at maybe shortening that up a little bit for what we needed and putting more minutes back in the instructional block. So them going down to 21 minutes during resource hour is actually, like, it's great for us, because we're able to put some minutes in other places too.
About how many staff do you share between the middle and the high school?
Oh, that's a great
God,
question.
13,
I
14
was
at
gonna
least.
say it's.
Okay.
Significant.
It's a huge.
So is that like for a percentage, is that 20% or, I mean,
Probably a little higher.
okay, 25, okay. Just curious.
Okay, well, let's move then to 17, approve the change to high school graduation credit. I'll catch up now.
So. So we did do an attachment for you to see that information, and basically, try to put a little bit of historical data for you, so you could just see a comparison, but, you know, we were through this process identifying, you know, where our kids are at and encouraging what is our philosophy and how can we continue to support the philosophy of, we believe that kids taking coursework through us is going to better prepare them for the future, and how do we best represent that in other ways, also through our graduation credit requirements. So you will see that, you know, over the last few years, most of our kids graduate far beyond our current credit limit of 22, where the average has been over 24. And so, you know, this is probably something we could have proposed a few years ago, but to us, it's just more of a formality of continuing to reinforce our philosophy as we want our kids taking more classes with us. So we looked at all the different, you know, different programs, graduation, you know, plans that we have for students, and how this might impact them, and really it's, with how our kids are currently taking courses, it's not really gonna provide us or present a lot of barriers for us. The things that we saw we're able to overcome them with some of our other, like our LDED program, things like that. So it's more or less kind of for us a formality to kind of solidify we want our kids taking more classes. You can see at one point in time it was 24 credits, and that was when we had an 8-period day previously. And 2017 is when district shifted to the 7-period day.
And I believe, I think I asked Wendell this, and we met earlier, dual credits count towards this too then? right?
Correct, yep.
Okay, another,
And just to revisit your previous question, the extra credit goes in the elective area.
okay,
That's where we go from 6.5
7.5.
elective to 7.
okay.
Which is good, because those can be those dual credit classes that kids want to take.
Yep.
That's great.
Okay, any other questions on this? Nope. Then I entertain a motion to approve the high school graduation credit requirement.
I'll make a motion to approve the increase in credits.
Okay.
Second?
Motion is second to approve the change of the high school graduation credit requirement from 22 to 23, starting in 2027, correct?
With that course.
Yeah.
The class.
Class, right,
Yep.
exactly.
So next year's freshman.
Yep. Okay, any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Okay, item 18, approve the food service special dietary accommodations policy.
All right, so this is basically a guidance document, if you look through it. We do have, if you look at policy 8500, it outlines, you know, our district policy in this regard. But what this document basically does is kind of provide the outline and the guidance and something that would be helpful to inform families what their rights are, what their options are, what the district can do to accommodate, and lays those parameters out. It also provides the contact information for the 3 positions that DPI requires that we have there, which is the Special Dietary Accommodation Coordinator, which you'll see is Sandy Anderson, who is technically hired by Taher, but she's our food service director. 504 coordinator, which is Wendy, and then a hearing official, which is myself. So this would be something that we would post on our website, and we would reference with families, and hopefully it would be a helpful informational document for them. It does not, and I should have probably been clearer on this, but it doesn't replace our policy. It just coincides with that and provides some additional information on what we do.
Is this a state requirement or anything like that?
DPI requires that we have the policy. I'm not entirely sure if they require that we have this document, but I think it's a good document for us to have to go
Okay.
along with it. So.
Okay.
So can you explain that again? It's not replacing the policy, but it says policy
It's
8500, which,
It's
It's a-
changed, he's
it's a
changed it on here
supplement.
from the initial one.
Yeah,
It's changed when you look on the new, in the agenda.
the template to make this said policy, and we just
Right.
basically changed it to a guideline or a supplement to the
Special.
policy. So that's updated on here if you pull it up in the attachment now. That's how it references. So it says guideline supplement to policy 8500.
So it's guidelines for the policy.
Because I had a question, where would this fall in our policies, and that's where he came into changing this to a guideline instead of being
Why,
a policy.
why do we need both?
Well, if you go back and look at 8500, if you pull that policy up, it's pretty dry. It just
It's
says,
very
it
brief.
just, yeah, it's very brief. This goes and says, okay, if I have a student who has a special need and they need a dietary supplement, what do I do? Who do I contact? How do I go about getting what they need, and what is the school capable of doing? And in some cases, if you look at like the liquid milk fluid milk substitute, or the religious reasons, or a personal request for just dietary accommodations, you can see that there's, you know, we don't just say no, there's other options there where we would provide a reimbursement or that sort of thing.
I don't under, I
It's
guess
guide-
I
There's a
just
lot
don't
of
understand.
administrative guidelines that can be out there to direct the administrator how to do things, but we don't have to have all that in the policies.
Yeah, and this isn't even, it doesn't even rise to the level of an admin guideline as much as it is just a resource for our
And
families.
but this is straight from DPI. You didn't go into this and you didn't.
We had options.
You had options?
We could go through and it was a template that we could go through and put our basically draft language.
I just asked because like on page 2 at the bottom, it says Wisconsin Department of Public Instruction, which led me to believe that this was just,
Some of
it's
these,
a document from them that we're considering adapting.
some of it is.
Okay.
Yep, some of it is, and then there were areas, just like when we would get our Neola policies, we can tweak and change certain things. And then some of it was selections. So there were different options under the fluid milk substitute or the religious reason. There were options in there where you could pick that the district would have, you know, a whole nother selection of menu items and food for this, which obviously doesn't really fit within our budgetary constraints or our personnel constraints and that sort of thing. So it just depends on the district and what resources you have available. But this was the one that we reviewed with Sandy, and Wendy worked on this and basically pulled together.
Okay?
I had a question on some wording, just out of curiosity. I saw reimbursable meal, OVS, offer versus serve. Do you know what that is? Or what
Is
the,
it observed?
what's that?
Is it observed? Is it abbreviated? I'd have to go on page.
Offer versus serve, so you can see it, it's in the 3, under the personal requests.
Yeah, so it said reimbursable meal,
Yeah,
offer versus serve.
so so we would,
So I think offered means like you have a choice to take it, served means you actually took it, like
Yeah.
the process was completed, right?
well, and I think Sandy could probably, you know, shed a little more light on that, but ultimately it would say that, you know, you're not necessarily gonna be provided an option that they have, but what they could do is potentially,
If you had a child for religious reasons that they couldn't eat salmon.
Well, it could be like,
Then
I have a
you'd give a different
strawberry
choice.
allergy, which I don't, but like, I have a strawberry allergy, so we make an offer that if on February 26th there's strawberries, there's a different choice.
Mm-hmm.
The parent may say, no thanks, I'll send my own lunch that day. So it was offered, but they didn't take advantage of it, so we didn't actually, they didn't take advantage of it.
I just thought the terminology was interesting, reimbursable meal. Do you reimburse them then, or?
Well, maybe if we don't have a substitute to offer, then maybe you would reimburse them whatever the lunch cost is for
Okay.
providing their own
especially
lunch.
if they're in free and reduced status or
Yeah.
that sort of thing.
Yep,
So if they
okay.
had to buy their own because you didn't offer an equivalent.
Are we running into a lot of issues with this type of thing?
It's the DPI recommendation that you have a document like this in
No,
place.
but it'll be there to cover it when you do. You'll have something.
Yeah, we don't have to do this today,
Feedback.
there's
As
not a
I'm-
deadline.
I mean, when I read through it the first time, I kind of read through it and I went, oh, but now when I'm reading through it the second time, there's different things jumping out. So I think,
Certainly.
you know, just having a little bit more time to digest it would be.
Digest it. Is that a pun or what?
Unintentional.
You didn't even know it, did you?
Okay.
I think I was looking at this as, I think Anna's looking at it the same way you were looking at it before, like, why isn't this just the policy? And as I'm opening up and actually looking at, the food service policy deals with something a little bit different or more broad. This is like more specific area that helps define a subset of that section necessarily. That's why it's not the policy, correct?
Right.
Is it the wish of the board that we table this till the next meeting?
I'm okay with
I
that.
would like to make a motion to table this till the next meeting.
Okay, second?
Second.
Okay, motion is second to table the approval of food service special dietary accommodations guidelines to policy 8500. Any further discussion?
I do want to know if this is connected to this medical advisor. Is that a connected piece or is that a separate?
Separate.
Okay, just making sure.
Okay, anything else?
No.
Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, it's tabled till next, put on the agenda for next month
The
meeting, please.
March meeting?
Yep. Okay, approval of the memorandum of understanding for district medical advisor.
Okay, so, medical advisor is not anything new to our district. I believe, was it Dr. Sudbury
That's-
was our previous medical advisor. We have always, traditionally in this district, had a handshake agreement with whoever our medical advisor was. It's really a voluntary position. It has no funding that goes along with it. Now, once we had to make a change because Dr. Sudbury was no longer available for us, you know, Wendy and I, as we started to try to brainstorm who would be available and just it kind of unfolded as we researched this a little bit that most schools have a very formal memorandum of understanding that outlines, even though it's a volunteer, the duties of the medical advisor, the purpose for the medical advisor, as far as some of the other pieces. And it also, you know, helps provide some protection for them as well, you know, as far as if you know, somebody were to litigate a situation and that sort of thing. So, so we put together this MOU. It outlines the need and what this individual, the responsibilities that this individual, that Dr. Schertz will have for the district, and basically, you know, some other options that provide her some protections and the option to get out of this MOU if she would ever need to do that. Other than that, I guess I'll try to answer Wendy, and I can answer any questions. Do you have anything to add to that?
No, it's just something where every district's required to have one, some districts pay, some don't. This agreement, she was like, no, they consult maybe once a quarter. You know, if we have a student that has a certain medical need that we need a consultation with, if we have a student that maybe is having issues with, like, not bringing medications or not following through, we might have them have the parent be a bridge between the parent and the primary physician to address like a situation that's coming up. So just like random things that might come up that, because we're not doctors, to have them help us navigate. But really it comes down to, here's our procedure for administering meds. You want to check it out and see if we're missing anything.
Or a prescription for, as it states in here, EpiPens. We have EpiPens in every office, different locations for emergency purposes, but obviously need that prescription to keep those
It's
up.
really just a consultation a couple times a year. It's a resource for our nurse to, what do you think about this? For her and I to sit down or, you know, have a conversation a couple times a year, like, and just have a
Okay.
sounding board that's qualified.
Yeah, and that's a common practice with schools, with
It's required.
camps, it's required, you know, when you have camps, nurses have to have doctors, that you have to have a medical advisor for all
We're
this
required to have
different
one, ours, one.
Okay, then I'd entertain a motion to approve the memorandum of understanding for a school physician consultant.
So move Swente?
Second?
Second, Kirsch.
Okay, a motion is second to approve the MOU for district medical advisor. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
All right, welcome back, everybody. I'm
Thank
just running
you.
outside.
That's okay, Sue. Okay, item 20, the finance report.
Sure, so quarter two is ended in December. The numbers are in, so The quarterly finance report, there's a number of things outlined in here. I've got just a few things that I'll highlight in it. First one you can see on page 1 under revenues. We're coming in with total revenues right now, at the time that this report was submitted to you all, was $858,794.38, which is 4.67% of what we expect for the year. It says slightly lower than what we were at last year. The dollar amount is actually more, but because our revenues are expected to be much higher, the percentage of our total comes in at less. So that's, if you're reading that, that's why that is the case. Couple of things just to add an update to this. All of our January tax dollars have been received. February is starting to come in. By the end of the month, we'll hopefully have most of that, and some of our PILT money is starting to come in too. So the PILT money is the payment in lieu of taxes. We have 6 townships, mainly up in, all of them I think, up in the Willow area that PILT money comes our way from. So that number is expected to be a little higher than what it's been in the past, but those are starting to filter in as well. So the big, just as a reminder too, the big months that we receive most of our tax dollars will be January, February, and then basically August, late July or August, when that final payment is due. Moving on to page 2, just kind of outlining where we are in terms of the different accounts. So Fund 21, this is mainly our athletics and activities and fundraised monies that they can, that basically they raise themselves. So they've raised $162,639.30 on Q2. Fund 27 revenues are listed there. That's special education. You can see there's also Medicaid reimbursements there. Fund 40 is one I'll point out. So the Fund 40 revenues that we have are mainly, we put that lump sum in Fund 46 last year. The revenues are the interest off of that. So just in this quarter alone, not including Q1, we've got $8,133.21 in interest off of that money, which I'll explain a little bit how that happens at the end of this report as well. Fund 50, that's our lunch food service fund. This amount happens to be over two months, the way that came in. The holiday affected that a little bit. Fund 80, again, the revenues that come from this right now are from middle school athletic fees and the pool usage fees that we have. Any questions on the revenue side of this, of the report?
Okay.
Okay, the expenditures, then on the other side of it, so moving on to page 3, we're right on where we need to be. You'll see that if you look at the graph, insurance, 700 is the only one that is at the top. So the budget to actual, you'll see that's at the top because that primarily is a one-time payment. There will be no additional payments, so that payment was made and we're maxed out there. At the bottom of this, we outline the difference between what purchase services is and try to provide that information. Some of those areas, basically any service that we need, from legal fees to conferences, building maintenance services, things like that. Non-capital is anything under $300, and then a capital investment or expenditure is anything that's over that $300 mark. So then looking at our expenditures by fund, you can see there's a couple of big ones in Fund 10. We had the boiler that Arland recently had installed, so we were able to avoid, that was listed in our Fund 46, but he was able to cover that. I think, did ESSER funds cover that, or out of your regular budget? I'm not sure which are combination.
Regular funds, and was able to get $17,400 back from We Energy.
Yeah.
By scrambling to get it in before their deadline.
Awesome.
So that project is
Good
scratched
job.
off the list. You can see that gas and electricity for the quarter, that's $20,000 higher than what we paid last year. And we've had a warm winter this far.
Yeah.
So if you look at those numbers, gas in our electric bill, like everybody is facing, has shot up dramatically. And transportation costs are around $5,000 more than what we paid at the same time last year. So, you know, everything obviously is increasing, and we feel that too. So then we go through by fund, so we showed the fundraising efforts. The other side of that is the revenues or the expenditures out of Fund 21. Again, this is money that carries over. It's not all, you know, there might be $160,000 in revenues. That doesn't mean that's all that's in there. That's just what was fundraised during that time. There's a lot more there. So when you see that number, if they differ, it's not like we're running out of money in that account. Fund 27 year-to-date expenses are just over $1 million. Again, that's 86% of that is salaries and benefits. So it's personnel. A big part of our budget and the expenditures across the board is dedicated to personnel. Fund 40, we spent no money out of that. So that was revenue, but we still have not tapped into that to hit some of the capital projects, though we will be, but we haven't had to. Arlen has been very strategic in how he uses his budget, how he's used the ESSER funds that were available to him, and he's done a phenomenal job with that. So food service, and then Fund 80, you'll see year-to-date expenses. Again, this is mainly our activities director and our pool director, as well as our middle school coaches, lifeguards, etc. We are slightly lower actually right now in total expenditures than where we were a year ago. So I think that's something, you know, that hopefully we're able to continue throughout the year, but even with a referendum, we are, shows that we are across the board being frugal with what we're spending. And then the last page, you'll see the cash and investment report. So on the back of this report, you'll see basically what we have in each account. We have a Tomahawk Community Bank account, $181,668.92. And then our savings account there. And then at the bottom, you'll see that local government pooled investment. This is where the Fund 46, where we generated that revenue. We're earning currently 4.26% on the money that is kept in this account. So currently we have $8 million, or $8,091,226 in that account. So that's earning quite a bit of interest for the district the longer it sits there. Questions on any of the finance report?
Any questions?
Okay, this does not need approval mainly because you approve the monthly
Right.
expenses each and every month.
Okay, very good, thank you. Good report.
And I can't go through this without making sure you guys all realize Sandy writes this report. I just do the talking, and I get the fun part of it, but the work part of it is done by Sandy, and she does a great job with that, so I thank her for that.
Okay, item 21, approve emergency school closure paraprofessional compensation proposal.
Okay,
Want to
so.
talk about that?
Yes, this was something that was brought up. I had a paraprofessional approach me earlier this year, talking about the hardships that they face being an hourly employee in our district, and when school is called off unexpectedly, or in our case, we've had 4 full days and a partial day, I think at this point, where it's called off, especially in a short period of time, how much that impacts our paraprofessionals. Across the board, most of the staff that we have here have an opportunity of some kind to work on those days. Secretaries can clear it with their building principal and have an opportunity to put hours in. Our custodians have the option to, to be here. In fact, we need them here many times on those days. Our school nurse has an opportunity to complete trainings and do some work. And down the road, we as an admin team have a plan in place to where our paraprofessionals will have an opportunity and an option to complete trainings and have an opportunity to work or get those hours back, on unexpected days. Right now, to a certain point, let me say, because even with the trainings, we probably, if we go into 4, 5, 6 days where schools had to be canceled, I don't think we would have that many trainings to make it relevant. So there may always be a need for somehow for these folks to be able to supplement, and receive pay on those days. So the proposal would be, I had sent this around to a number of different superintendents, and we have a new superintendent cohort this year that we bounce questions off of quite regularly, and I sent it through that group. And I got quite a few responses back. Some schools have switched over to complete PTO, and it solves a problem. That's been a nightmare for them to initiate, to get everything switched over with time that already exists and switched over to converted to PTO. And it also is kind of an issue with, they're seeing an increase, most of them, in the amount of time used, which would be difficult for our district to do. Some districts have it in there where they just have 2 days written in, where they don't ask questions. If school's called off and you're an hourly employee, you get paid for that day, up to 2 days. Beyond that, you could use your personal leave, et cetera, and until that's exhausted. Or they would try to supplement with trainings like we'll do next year. And we have done actually to help them on the days that they've missed. We've provided some trainings that we think would be beneficial for them to have too. And then there's a number of schools that offer the opportunity to convert sick leave if you've already exhausted your personal leave and you don't have an opportunity to work. So this would be a pretty minimal thing as far as our district goes, but I think it's important knowing that this is a hardship for our support, or for one element, one group of our support staff, primarily the paraprofessionals, if we somehow are saying, you're not gonna have the opportunity to work on this day, we don't have anything for you to do, we still are providing them an opportunity that's not gonna take us over budget. They would have to make a choice, do they wanna convert a day of their sick leave that ultimately they would be paid out for in one capacity or another anyway, in order to do this. In fact, if they do it, we also don't have to hire a sub. So it's a sick leave day that we don't hire a sub for. Now, there is one piece of this that should be mentioned. If it's a day that we are gonna schedule for makeup. We have 2 makeup dates already in our calendar, not already, but slotted for if we were gonna make this up. This option would not be available because we would need them to work on those days. The other stipulation would be that whatever they complete in trainings would be done during that work week, so that it didn't put them in a position where they went over 40 hours if they were full-time, and then we would be on the hook for that time and a half. So they would have to do it within the week that day, up to Sunday. So basically, Monday to Sunday, to make this up. So,
Could that be done if the day that was canceled was a Friday? I understand Saturday, Sunday, but what would they do in that? What's the training that they?
So the training they could do
Online
either online, yeah, and if they're, if they're not able to access the internet at home, our building is open. We typically call school off, we don't encourage people to be here because we're trying to clean parking lots and do different things, but we've worked with Arlen to make sure that we have one designated area of parking that we can clean up first, and then when everyone leaves later. So we could have them come here if they needed to, and they could get here safely, and they could utilize, our school resources and internet to complete the trainings as well.
Okay.
So what do they get now as far as paid time off or sick leave or both?
They have 9 sick leave days. I believe they're 9-month employees, so they have 9 sick leave days. They have 2 personal days. 2 of those, they come from their sick leave, but 2 of those could be for personal reasons. So they don't get additional days, I don't believe. And then.
And I know this question is just gonna open up why do we separate them? What is the difference?
For what?
Why don't we just call it paid time off? And just do 11 days?
I think, the main reason is cost to the district. If you go to any reason, you can just take vacation whenever you want it. We don't encourage that. We've got vacation built in, we've got paid holidays.
But if you have sick days out there,
Mhm.
and you're saying you can be sick for 9 days, you don't require a slip from a doctor.
We can,
After
3. And we also incentivize banking those days for retirement.
Right, that's the big incentive.
I know the hospital switched
Well,
over.
my wife is a paraprofessional, so I understand where he's coming from with this. I really think it's a good thing for that small sector of people. And it's gonna promote more people to wanna come in and apply for those jobs as they open up down the road. We're looking at a total package there, and that's what I'm looking at.
Would they do at the hospital?
When they switched over from the sick time, that to PTO, it took a while for transition. People would use that and whatever, but now it's mellowed out. People will plan their PTO, that you have to plan your PTO, you can't just take it. But you could use it for sick time, PTO is sick time. If you're sick, that comes out of that bank. It did reduce the amount of hours that we got. I mean, from sick time, I mean, we had 6 weeks sick time, then we had blah, blah, and all this other stuff, but, so we've lost some, but it was more flexible. And
What was?
when we went to PTO.
It's more flexible when you go to.
But it's a whole different scheduling
But it's a whole
system
different
too,
scheduling
that we
system.
have there. When you have 24/7 coverage versus.
Right.
Well, didn't you say, Wendell, in talking to the other districts, that when they went to all PTO time, then people took more time off?
Yeah.
Initially, people start doing that.
Initially, they will.
They will.
I've seen
But
it
then they
another
lose
way
it.
too, where
There's only so much.
districts, and this is kind of a thing that's, I don't hear as much about, but, you know, a district that I previously worked for, they said, we're not gonna do PTO, but the days are the days. In essence, that's what it was, but we don't care if you're sick, or you take them, they're all personal days.
Right.
And they pooled them together, and, you know, however many you got, and I don't think they do that anymore, because they see the increase, people use them, you know, and it's a big cost to the district to have to bring a sub in, or like we saw last year when we had a shortage of subs, now we're scrambling to cover internally, and that takes a toll on what we're able to do too, so
I
it's.
didn't mean to open up a whole other thing, I just wanted to
Yeah.
make sure that my understanding was there while we're talking about it.
Okay, then entertain a motion.
No, I have a question. I'm wondering why this isn't a policy change. If you have a defined policy on sick leave, why isn't this a policy change?
It would it would require that I don't know if it would be a tech change if it was approved, or if we'd have to contact Neola, but we would have to tweak the current policy that we have in place that identifies sick leave or leave times for paraprofessionals.
Because I would like to make a motion that we table this too for more discussion, because I think there's some ideas that we could use outside of encouraging people to take sick days for that time. And I would like to have more discussion, more time to look into this, because I feel like I'm on the policy committee, and I'm told to uphold policy, and I know this is a change in policy. And I don't feel comfortable saying, all right, oh, this looks good, and let's vote on it, because you did say you have down the road other options. So I'm wondering why if there's a hurry to get this in for any reason, or?
The only reason I put it in now, because next month will come with all the handbook changes and that sort of thing, and we can include it, then it's fine. But right now, we've used just about all the trainings that we can possibly use to cover the 3 days we've offered them to them. So if we have a snow day or something in between them, then it's basically a situation where they're gonna be without.
And I get that, and I think all of them understand that, because when you take this position, you know this is unpredictable, and it is what it is. I'm not saying I just think there's other options, because I'm not sure everybody understands that sick leave is something that they can accrue and use in retirement, and I don't want to give them a false understanding of that. I also am looking out for the best interest of the whole school district. I want to know that we've looked at this a little bit more before we make that recommendation.
Can I propose something? And this is recognizing that your motion is still on the table, but my recommendation and my request would be that, because I'm in favor of this, I think this is a great idea, and I'd like to continue moving forward with it. My worry is if we table to the next meeting, then it goes to the policy, maybe we look at it next time, and maybe it's 3 months down the road we haven't done it yet. So my request is this, that we request that the policy committee meet, amend the policy to reflect new language, bring it back to the board for a first read at the next meeting. And we can consider, and we can have and we can continue our discussion then, but then we've got the new policy that we can decide to move forward on at the next meeting. And we have the language ready to go, rather than discuss it at the next meeting, and then discuss a policy at the following meeting, and then maybe it gets put in place 3 meetings from now. I would just like to have momentum. Does that make sense?
It does.
It
we're
does
trying
make
to get
sense,
a meeting.
however, I also am hearing what you're saying in that I don't think you should rush through this decision based on what you've just shared about the sick days, which I did not realize was available to paras. I didn't realize that they could bank them. So there's learning moment, right?
Is that in their contract?
Yes,
They
the
don't have a
handbook is in their
contract.
handbook.
Yeah, I just, it didn't connect
Yeah,
for me.
but it should be in their handbook and the
Um,
contract.
And what I'm hearing from you is a sense that that understanding's not out there.
No, I don't
And
think, I think it's, well, I think it's not, I have some ideas that will give them similar options, but they're not using their sick days to acquire that. And I don't wanna get into the habit of saying those sick days can be used for this, for that, for the other thing. And I also know that, like we've said before, there's paras, there's teachers using unpaid days to take days off. And I'm, you know, you can't have it both ways. You can't say, oh, when the snow days, I don't get paid. But, oh, I wanna go early for a vacation, I want a day off. Well, can't extend a vacation or whatever. You don't have sick days. The other thing is, what if they do need those sick days down the road? Let's say we have snow days, they use up their sick days, they've already used some, and now they break a leg or something, need sick days. Now they have nothing. I guess I'd rather see a little bit more creative ideas that we're not encouraging them to go that route. That's my feeling. And I don't
Dave,
know
you're
if-
saying
I do
to
have
send
a
it back to the policy
Yeah.
committee
I'd say
to come up with an
policy.
idea?
Yeah, but a draft to review at the next meeting. You know, and perhaps it's gonna include some other language like that, alternative options. I'm not opposed to any of that, I think that's all fine too, but, you know, recognizing that, you know, this might be the best option for people, and, you know, especially if this was brought to Wendell's attention as an option, I think that's something that we can do. And to Bob's point, it makes the job more attractive, I think, too.
Well, and I just want to make just one clarifying point. This is not an encouragement to do this. That is not at all in this. We're not encouraging people to do this. The encouragement is to work, and we're going to try to give them an opportunity. This is a stopgap when the district or their employer says, you're scheduled to work, but we're pulling that away from you because we've called school off, and now you can't, and you have no options, and we're not giving you any options. This is a way for them then to account for those hours in a way that doesn't put them above and beyond. So we're not giving them hours, they're converting leave time that they have to do that. Now, the goal moving forward is gonna be that we have a plan in place to offer trainings on the things that we want them to know, and we currently don't have time to put that in place. It's around $6,000 to bring our paras in on a day they're not scheduled. So, you know, we're kind of cautious on doing that unless it's a very, very important training that we have. Well, we have a number of things that we've talked about over the years that we want to do, and I think we can probably cover three days. I wouldn't go into 4, because that's a lot of trainings when you figure 5.5 hours, which most of our paras work. So this would just be a situation available to them once we've exhausted all of those other options. Then with that said, I mean, if we want to look at, you know, other ways and that sort of thing, and I'm certainly fine with that, but I just wanted that to be clear with everyone.
Because how many snow days do you have built in for the year? Because there's only so many, and then you have to start making them up.
I think we had four built in, but now we get into
So-
virtual days.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, when we have that option available to us, and there may be times as we grow in our ability to have a you know, more productive virtual day or that sort of thing, that paras might be needed in those situations, and it may be a issue at that point. We're not there yet, across the board anyway. There would always be times.
I think one thing to note is someone that supervises the majority of the paras, I think it came to our attention because they were so close together. And so some that live, you know, that's 3 snow days in like a 2-week period almost, that's, you know, a 30-year check. So that makes it very challenging for them. So I think that's part of, you know, where it was before, if it was one here or there, they didn't notice that much, didn't bring it to our attention. But, you know, that's part of life, so it made us more aware of their needs.
And it would still be an option. They could say my sick days are more important to me, I will take the unpaid day, but I just feel like we have a responsibility as an employer to offer something to that group of folks.
Okay, so what's the motion right now that's out there?
Well, Ann's motion is to table it. I don't know, I'm not familiar enough with Robert's Rules of Order.
You're not amending, you're trying to amend my motion
Right.
to table it with discussion at the policy committee.
Okay.
I accept that.
Okay, so
Thank you. I think that's-
to, correct me if I'm wrong, but the motion on the table right now is to send it back or send it to the policy committee for review and action at our next meeting. Is that correct?
That's what correct is.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, the motion is second. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Thank you. Board referrals.
The only board referral that was on there is for what I mentioned earlier
Yeah.
with the.
For the state
So
conference.
there's a link there that you can learn
Okay.
more if that
The
wasn't
day at the
sent.
Capitol.
Yep.
Yep.
And I have something too, if I can.
Yeah.
I wrote it down because I just wanted to get through this. I'm speaking on behalf of our two retirees. I've known for a while about the retirements of Chris Kernan and Nate Mickelson. However, when I read it on our consent agenda, it becomes real. Real in the sense that two very prominent, dedicated, talented, caring, and outstanding educators will no longer be going to be part of the Tomahawk School District. Even though this makes me sad, I feel fortunate to have worked with both of them, to know their families, and to have had my own children and grandchildren be influenced and educated by them. They both have given our children, our district, and our community 30 and 34 years of their lives respectfully. I can say with my own professional as well as personal experience, that we will be able to hire another art teacher and another fifth grade teacher, but we will never be able to replace Chris Kernan and Nate Mickelson. I would like to wish both of them a happy retirement, and hopefully one day they will return to our school district in some capacity. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Nate.
Thank you.
Very well done.
Yeah, well done. Thank you.
I do have one thing also, and Scott and sort of Wendell already stole my thunder a little bit on this, but I just want to again recognize the efforts of, Zach Hansey for swimming, and, he's just done an outstanding job and been an outstanding student at the school. And then wrestling for Presley, Jack, and Blake, and I think it's worth noting again, the accomplishments of the hockey program, and that, Chris is Coach of the Year with a regular season record of 18-5, and, shout out to our kids for their terrific accomplishment, but we got some things to hang our head on athletically. So, huge shout out to them, congratulations.
It's actually fun doing the history of Tomahawk sports this time of year.
Okay.
I had one more in
Yep.
there because it slipped my mind to mention this early, and Allison has left, but she had some successful FCCLA groups that, 2 firsts, 2 golds, and a second, and the 2 golds are state qualifiers. So I'd like to recognize her efforts in the FCCLA. I was actually able to sit in as a judge, a guest judge, so to speak, to prep them. And got a sneak peek at what their presentations were, and they do a phenomenal job. So the work that they did, not just in their presentations, but leading up to it, some of the work that they did in our community, and the fundraising efforts, and how they use that money, and so on and so forth, it shows some really strong leadership on her part, and some really great efforts by the kids, and some talents, and it's neat to see them do some really good things in our community, so.
Okay. Anything else? All right, then, last thing is to go into closed session. So I'd entertain a motion to go into closed session.
I so moved.
Second?
Second, Scotty.
A motion is second to go into closed session. Roll call, please.
Screwball,
Yes.
Swente,
Yes.
Mabu,
Yes.
Zimmerman,
Yes.
Hughesby,
Yes.
Hirsch,
Yes.
Kissinger Wolf,
Yes.
Long.
Yes.
Okay, we're in closed session.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks for your patience.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
One other.
I'll call you.
And they're, you gotta show me where this link is.